Jonathan Kelly's now wife, Tia, she had this yoga, like, workout compression shirt, like a tank top deal, because I couldn't breathe, like, with my ribs. And they kept telling me, like, you need to put, like, some compression on. I wouldn't have nothing. And she had one of her shirts, and she brought it to me the second morning. And, dude, I felt like a new man. Like, it still hurt, but I could actually, like, move around. Oh, it's game on then. Like,
Tia Kelly, thank you for letting Wes wear your clothes. Did not know you caught 20 pounds in women's clothes. Hell, I may try that.
Hey, ain't nobody ever done that. I promise you. Yes, sir. Hey, if it would have made headlines if I'd have been out there in a yoga shirt and yoga pants.
Yeah, you can take it to the bank. Hold the line. Hey, you know we on the way. All the time. Yeah, we do this every day.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, sports fans, we are back here on the Take It to the Bank podcast. Got Mr. Wes Logan, the Little Ball of Hate, and Elite Series champion. Give it up for him. I got some cool buttons on this podcast website.
I was about to say, you got a good button right there.
I do.
I need one of them buttons when I catch a 12-incher in a tournament. Like, it just makes me feel good.
You should. I may just start following you around.
And hit the button.
And cheering for you. Yeah.
Yeah. I need somebody to.
Wes, thank you very much for coming on. About to get practice started in Florida. Season's about to get going. Know you're pretty excited about that. Coming off a really dang good year.
Yeah, it was I wish we could have just kept fishing, to be honest with you, because I feel like I had a lot of momentum, which is good in fishing. It's actually a real thing, contrary to what a lot of people say. But it's just like any other sport. Momentum's good, but we're fixing to get it rolling here. Literally, we'll start practice tomorrow, and on one of my favorite places to fish, the St. Johns River. There's a lot of big ones in here, and I don't know, just looking forward to it.
You had a lot of momentum until your face hit that console.
That was a lot. Yeah, I was about to say momentum came to an abrupt halt. Yeah, everything was going good till it wasn't, Ben. I'm telling you, it was going good, and then all of a sudden it went south pretty quick.
Dude, that can happen to any of us. Thank God you had a leash on there. Guys, can't stress it enough. Freaking go buy a leash. Run to our website. We've got a discount code on there for it. Like, you spend a ton of money on everything else, just go buy a leash. It costs less than one rod. So
yeah, literally. And I mean, a rod. I'm not gonna say a rod can't save your life, but the odds of a leash saving your life and a rod's two totally different things.
Very true. But you're healed up. I told you just a second ago, your face didn't look fat anymore.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
It looked like it.
I've cut out the 4 oatmeal cream pies I've been eating during the day.
Right after that happened, his face was all swollen up. It looked like he gained 40 pounds.
Yeah,
but
I had people commenting on all over my stuff, like, I ain't putting on some weight. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, so he ain't fat. He's just his face was swollen up, but we're good. We're healed up. We're sitting in the camper, and we are ready to get the Elite Series season started. The region that the best, where you've won the Elite Series tournament, is Alabama. So we're going to talk about Alabama fishing in March. Let's throw out the Tennessee River. To me, they're kind of a beast of their own. But kind of name me some good lakes in Alabama, some stuff that you've been before. And if somebody's traveling down there in the month of March, where's some good places to go?
Yeah, I mean, and the one thing good about Alabama is, and I think this is why you see a lot of professionals moving here, is there's so much diversity with the lakes within, a reasonable driving distance. Within 3 to 4 hours, you can be at, northern Alabama. You've got Smith Lake, which is deep, clear, like a Highland Reservoir type deal. You can come to central Alabama. You got the Coosa River, which is, famous for the Coosa River spotted bass and shallow water fishing, all that good stuff. Current situations. You can go on down to, southern Alabama. Well, you actually have another kind of, I would say it would be considered southern Alabama with Lake Martin. It's going to be more of a Highland Reservoir type deal. Then you get into like truly South Alabama near the Georgia line and Florida line. You'll have Eufaula, which is a river lake system all kind of in itself. It's on a river system, but it kind of plays out 2 different ways. Just a lot of diversity. And like you mentioned, you've got the Tennessee River. You've got, world famous Gunnersville and Pickwick. Obviously, I don't know it quite as well as I know the other, that central to southern. But again, a lot of diversity and a lot of places just learn different techniques to fish.
For sure. It's so cool. You can chase spotted bass, you can chase largemouth. Like there's a bunch of different places that you can go. So when you think about March fishing, what comes to mind? Is everything changing? Are we still hardcore pre-spawn? Let's talk a little bit about the month of March in Alabama.
Yeah, majority of the time I would say you're going to be dealing strictly pre-spawn. There is, certain wintertime situations I've seen where it can be really warm in March. I know some of the biggest fish that I've ever caught and people that I know have ever caught have been the end of February to the beginning of March. And just off my top of my head memory, I can remember my uncle catching one of those 10 off Neeley Henry. And it was post-spawn of the second week of March. Not to say if you get a warming trend that those really big ones won't slide up there. And not trying to drag this out, but I do know I've noticed specifically on the Coosa River, the biggest fish in the lake do tend to like to spawn as early as they can. And I don't know if that's just a strain of the fish, a pressure situation. I'm not really sure on that. Not to say that big ones won't spawn during, when it's wide open, but I have tend to seen that be like a trend throughout the years. Again, strictly pre-spawn. And here lately, man, dude, March has been like end of February, March has been the coldest time of the year. So it's been that, that shallow water, lipless, red crankbait, chatterbait, just grinding around top fishing from what I've seen in recent history, the places I've been fishing in that time of year.
Gotcha. So let's go to one of your home lakes. You're right there on Logan Martin, or at least really close.
Yeah.
No, there's an ABT down there. Let's talk about Logan Martin and Eufaula. I know there's a couple of big tournaments on those this week, and they're going to set up differently because one of them's on the Coosa River, one of them's on the Chattahoochee. They're completely different bodies of water. But I'm going to pull up a map, and you kind of tell me if a guy's, from like me from Tennessee that has never fished it on the Coosa. Let's start on Logan Martin, and just give me some areas where you can, where you can kind of go get a bite.
Yeah, absolutely.
At least where you'd start.
Yeah, where you can start at for sure.
Okay. Can you see that there?
Oh yeah. Which I can play it by memory too. I could probably drive the lake with my eyes closed. I'm not going to advise to do that, but so yeah, like right here, we're looking at, you're going to be looking at mid lake.
So when,
of course, go ahead.
Hang on just a sec. So when you start on the Coosa River in March, are you typically looking up the river, mid lake, down next to the dam? Where are you going to start your search when you're fishing for fishing tournament?
Historically, especially on Logan, this time of year, anytime through the winter towards this time of year until you getting some of those longer days, warmer days, I like to start from the lower dam, which will be Logan Martin Dam, up to about mid lake. And I would say mid lake would probably end up being around the I-20 bridge, which is around the Riverside area for people that are kind of familiar with that. Somewhere between there is the most of the time where most tournaments are won that time of year. And not to say they're not won, there during other times of the year, but that's where I like to start. And you can kind of break that down. It kind of cuts off for somebody like you that's never been there or anybody listening. It cuts off 20 to 25 so odd miles of the lake that you don't really, if you're not familiar with it and know what stretches to go check up there, it keeps you from having to go up there and up the river is what I'm meaning. But yeah, there's a lot of water.
That's as important to me when I go somewhere is where not to go as it is where to go. If I can ride off 2/3 of the lake before I get there, dude, I feel like I can break down 1/3 of a lake a lot better than I can break down an entire one.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Especially going somewhere blind. It just makes it that much more easy. Because if you happen to get a few bites and you start getting a little bit of a pattern, you've got a smaller area to break down, obviously, and it just makes things snowball a lot faster, and most of the time makes your fishing be a lot more successful.
All right, so let's get started. We're putting in, let's say down here next to the Birmingham Sailing Club. Looks like there's a ramp right there close to the islands. What's water clarity? What should it be? Does it change a lot? When you first put your boat in, what are you going to look for the very first thing? Is it water level, water clarity, water temperature? What are you looking for in the month of March?
Yeah, so on Logan Martin, you're going to have a winter drawdown. Standard winter drawdown for Logan Martin is going to be about 3 foot down from full pool. So just kind of gauge it. Most of the time, they're going to keep it there. Like if you have a very intense rain and you get some flooding, they're going to run enough current through the system that if it does start to come up, it's not going to be up for long, maybe, 12 to 18 hours, 24 hours sometimes, but they're going to be trying to get it back down to that 3 foot level. So I'll check on that first, obviously, just to see kind of but again, they're going to be around that 3 foot level down from winter pool. And obviously you can check the winter pool high, or, above sea level on any kind of internet or app or anything like that. So check that first. 90% of the time, that area of the lake you're in, right there where the sailing club is, or the sailboat club is what everybody calls it. It's going to be, depending on where you're from, like to me down there looks clear, it's clear for the Coosa River, but it's not going to be clear for Smith Lake water. You're probably going to be able to see 2 foot, maybe 2.5 foot, which, normally is stained in many parts of the country, but as dirty as the Coosa River stays, it tends to be cleaner on that bottom end. And I will say, if you do get down there and there tends to be a lot more stain in the water, it's going to be a lot better fishing normally, because those fish, the clearer that water gets, they tend to spread out. Like they'll go do traditional spotted bass stuff and get out there on bait, kind of out in the middle of the pockets and coves and stuff like that, where that water gets a little bit dingy and colorful. They'll kind of get on the bank a little bit and catch them a fun way. So that's kind of the stuff I'm going to be looking for when I get down there, and just taking into account. And the third thing will be water temperature for sure. See if you're dealing with, low 40s, mid 40s, mid 50s even. Probably don't know that it would be around any in the 60s that time of year, or maybe the end of March, but definitely not the beginning or the middle. So just kind of seeing what that's, and that would, tell me kind of what baits I want to use, where I want to be starting as far as like in the way back in the pocket, the mouth of the pocket on the main river, stuff like that.
Okay. For shits and giggles here, let's say water temperatures in the upper 40s to low 50s, somewhere around that 49 to 52 range. Mm-hmm. Clarity is pretty normal. Lake is normal. Winter pool, where are you going to start?
Truthfully, if everything was stable, like if there was no weather, no dirtier water, I mean, in today's age, man, it's hard to beat, the live scope. I mean, it really is. And there's so many spotted bass in Logan Martin. I think there's more fish in Logan Martin than any of the Coosa Rivers, just lake per lake or lake per lake. So with that population of spotted bass, and traditionally and historically, the bigger ones live down there by the dam, which is normally true about anywhere you go that, that has a place.
Lanier, wherever you want to go, the bigger spots live next to the dam.
And the reason for that is I really do believe the water is normally cleaner, and for some reason the bigger fish because spotted bass are normally, sight, they feed by sight a lot. So they're down there chasing those big balls of shad. And the Coosa River, Logan Martin especially, has no lack of forage by any means. So, I mean, that's a really good place to start, especially to kind of judge what's going on. And normally would start at the mouth of some creeks, because, as cold as it's been, you're going to see those normally, historically now speaking, those backwaters, as cold as it's in the wintertime, normally those shad are going to try and migrate out to the main river channel, where the water's just a little bit more consistent of temperature, even if it is, let's just say your surface temperature, if it got real cold and the water surface temperature was 39, there's a depth down there that the water's going to stay the same. And being out there on the river channel, it's going to stay that way, which makes everything want to gravitate to that in the wintertime, which is where I would, again, like to start. And starting there, you're going to be able to move your way like back in places, like up on the bank, back in, like I said, back in some pockets, stuff like that. But, just get a feel of what's going on if you've never been there. See where all the bait is. See if there's any fish like actively feeding in that bait. And truthfully, like you'll get an indicator within 2 or 3 hours, like, okay, there's some fish, the bait's way out here, there's some fish on them, might need to stay. And you may even happen to catch a few. If you catch, quality fish, the Coosa River in a whole is a very good pattern. Like if you catch 1 or 2 doing that, you may have figured out the deal and just been able to, if it's a 1-day tournament, you just kind of run with it. Being multiple days would be a little bit different way to look at it. You'd have to consider all the weather and stuff, but that's kind of where I would start with it for sure.
So you're going to start towards the mouths of pockets. Well, let's look right down here. We put in here at the Sailing Club, let's say, don't even know if you can, but we're going to hypothetically put our brand new Falcon boat, the Predator 20 in there. And where are we running to first?
But to be honest with you, when you put in right there, you're right around the corner from a major creek, kind of back up just a little bit is Rabbit Branch, which is, it's a big creek considering, the size that Logan Martin is. And there's a lot of tournaments get won out of there. There's a huge population of fish that just live in there. So, somewhere around that area, you can kind of you can get in that creek and kind of figure out what's going on. You could start right there at the mouth, kind of where it necks down. There's more than likely going to be a lot of, bait fish present around the mouth where it necks down there.
Now, is it the one going to the south?
It'd be the one right there at the north.
Okay. So with the islands out in front of it.
Yeah. You'll have Clear Creek is the one on the south side of the lake right there across from the Sailboat Club, and then that'll be Rabbit Branch. And like I said, you have a lot going on in that whole general area. Like you have that creek, you have the main river, you have another creek straight across from there. You got a hard bend turn in the river. You're right near the dam. There's just a lot of stuff you can break down in a short amount of time.
So you're going to start kind of out here in the middle, looking around with either your side imaging or your live scope, and
2D, whatever you got.
Okay. And
even if you idle through just down the middle of the creek channel and you saw a lot of bait in that area, even if you don't have a live scope, like you could still be like, okay, I know there's bait present in this, half a mile stretch of this creek. If I'm just a guy that maybe you don't like the live scope, like you would just want to go fishing, well, at least
you cheater, spotlighting them.
The magical box is. God almighty. I caught me off guard there.
Sorry.
No, you good. You could, like, what I'm saying is, like, back in the day, like, back in the good old days, you would see bait in that area and be like, well, I'm going to fish here. At some point, somewhere in this area, there's going to be fish present because they got to eat. Like, it's going to help you narrow down some places. And I can assure you, I can promise you, sitting right here in this camper, you're going to idle through there with your 2D and see some bait, and eventually the bait's going to stop. And you'll be like, well, don't need to fish. And not to say that there's not one or two bass back there, but for a good population of fish, I would start to try and put together what's going on where I see the most bait present. Like that's just common sense fishing, especially in March.
So we're gonna find us some bait again towards the mouths of these pockets, kind of out in the middle. Again, if you got live scope looking around, that kind of thing. Ooh. So let's say we found some, looks like between two sets of power lines right here. Does that sound right?
Oh yeah, there should be there's something there.
Like it really necks down right here to the south.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's another set of power lines. There's kind of a feeder creek coming in here, a couple of little pockets on both sides. Let's say we found some right there, some bait. So how are you starting to chase those fish? Are you dropping a minnow on them, or what are you doing to start?
Yeah, if you shouldn't have stuttered right there. If you see, like, okay, let's just two different scenarios. You've got the box and you're looking around, and there's some dots up under these balls of bait. There's a very good chance. And I'm just telling people, listen, it's gonna be a catfish. I'm just telling you, it's gonna be about a 3-pound channel cat that will thump your minnow like you've never seen.
Dude, I have a bigger problem with catfish than I have distinguishing any other species. A 3-pound catfish looks a whole lot like a 3-pound bass.
They do. There is a certain way that they look on the screen sometimes that will give you an indication that it is a catfish. But if the bass are real lethargic, because they swim the same when a bass is like, when they want to come get it, and a lot of people knowing that do it, they coming to get it. Like I can't get it away from them. But for some reason, the whole Coosa is just slap full of those 3 to 4 pound catfish, which looks like, good bass. And they set up like them. Like I said, they'll get under those balls of shad. I caught some the other day just because we wanted to take them home and have a few catfish. And I knew what I was throwing at, but as I was fighting them, like they're just spitting up shad. So they're doing the same thing that the bass are, so it does make it hard to figure out which one is which. But if you do that,
Hey,
and you do catch go ahead.
Let's back up just a second, because you said something pretty juicy right there. To me, their arches and stuff, when you're looking at them on live scope, look really, really similar. But the way they move and the way they come up on a bait is different, and you just touched on it right there. So tell me how you can tell a difference on the way they move.
So a lot of times, from what I've seen, just my little bit of experience I have with the front looker, a catfish will come up and almost kind of sniff your bait. I obviously know he's not sniffing it with a nose, but he will kind of come up there and like nose your minnow or whatever, and it's a slow moving, like it's just a casual, like you can kind of see it where I can see their tail moving on mine, like that they're coming up there, and they'll kind of get right under it, and then your line will jump. Now, obviously, I've caught a few bass doing that, but most of the time, a bass he's coming. And another thing I've seen catfish do is they'll come up to it, kind of sniff your bait a little bit, and shoot off away from it. Like they don't like it at all. They understand that it's evidently they're kind of smart. Like I don't know the guy from Adam. Drew Gill is probably one of the best I've heard with the front looker. And he can, he is. I kind of heard him touch on that a little bit, and then I saw it firsthand. Like I don't know if they're just that smart or what the deal is, but they'll come up to it, and if they don't get it, they'll shoot off from it and not come back. Where a lot of times, if you have spotted bass, they're bad about, and I know you've seen it, they'll run up there to it and shoot off from it, and then come back again and shoot back off of it. Stripe, little hybrids are bad about doing that too. And again, I don't want to make this a forward-facing podcast by any means. If that's just a little deal that I've picked up on to. If you're just beginning, it's something you can kind of key in on.
No, how a lot of times they look the same, and a fish will look different, looking away or looking towards you or going side to side. Like you can't the biggest question I feel like people ask with forward facing sonar is, how do I tell what's a bass and what's not? And a lot of times you can't tell by just looking at that return on your sonar when he's sitting still. A lot of times him moving around and how he reacts to your bait is how you tell if it's a bass. A lot of times, in my opinion.
Yeah. I've seen it enough where, again, I'm no expert. Like I don't want to come across as that. I don't want to come across as a Drew Gill or a Wheeler or something like that. But they will look different ways on different places. Like you can't just specifically say, hey, it's going to look like Tic Tacs laying over there on the bottom when you see them. Like on side scan, like every place because you have different water qualities. You'll be looking at them in different water depths, like what different water temperatures affect that sonar beam, like stuff in the water, like they're not going to look the same. But I will say I have gotten into situations where I'm not throwing, but it's certain dots on a certain place during that week. Yeah. Cause you get, you catch enough, like you see enough of them, like when you see one, you're like, oh, that's one that I'm throwing at that one. And for sure. I'm telling the guys that do it all the time, I don't do it all the time. When the guys that do it all the time, they truly can tell whether it's a smaller fish or the one, a really big. I mean, you can tell. Like it's pretty. A 4
or 5 pounder does not look like a 2 pounder.
No, absolutely not.
A lot of times,
not saying that I'm not going to throw it 2 pounders, because sometimes, I mean, like Smith Lake, like I was throwing it 2 pounders because I mean that was a good one.
A lot of times,
Smith is kind of the one that kind of was an oddball to me with that, but that's a different story for a different time. The two biggest spotted bass I caught all week I thought were stripe.
A lot of times, and
I caught a bunch of stripe, but all of a sudden and they acted the exact same. Truthfully, I've heard on those type of lakes like a Hartwell, a Smith, Lanier, that the biggest spots in the lake will travel with the stripe. So kind of makes sense that they act the same. But again, that's a different story for a different time. But like you said, they are similar, but they do have different mannerisms. To wrap that up.
Okay. So
you took me down a rabbit hole there.
I did. Wes Logan, FFS.
To set the record straight for anybody that's a Coosa River born and bred, I'm not saying the Coosa is a scoping place, but there is a lot of money still getting won on it. There, so
there's no such thing as a place that's not a scoping place at this point. Let's be real.
Main River.
Didn't Taku or somebody have a top 10 last year? Like right out in front of the ramp scoping?
So structural scoping is what I call it. They wasn't out there in the middle of the river throwing at random floating dots.
Gotcha. They were finding stumps and little stuff to
That's
throw
right.
at.
That's right. Which is a way to use that deal. I mean, a lot of people catch them that way. Somebody's gonna catch them that way here at St. John's. You watch.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, let's bring this rabbit chase back in. Let's bring her back in. So we're towards the bottom on the Coosa River. Is this the same way at Eufaula? Is it going to set up similarly? Are you going down to the lower end of the lake at Eufaula too?
Depends on what you want to do. Both of them are going to set up the same depending on how you kind of like to fish.
A lot of times,
Eufaula is going to be a little bit different. Obviously, it's a lot bigger, body of water to begin with. So you're going to have to be really watching the weather depending on what that water does. You got to watch water levels there too. There's not a winter drawdown there, but sometimes they drop it down if there's a big rain coming in. They don't want the place to flood.
A lot of times,
or maybe it has flooded and the water's up and they're dropping it. I mean, I've been burned a couple times where, Eufaula is a really good swim jig lake, good shallow water power fishing if the water's a little dingy and up. But they can like if you got down there and I only had one day of practice and the water was up, you just need to check, make sure they're not running a lot of water out of it and it's going to drop by the next tournament day because those fish that are 1.5 feet deep will vacate the area quickly. And you'll go from thought you were going to catch 22 to catch a 2-pounder.
A lot of times. Yeah, that anywhere you're at, guys, Tennessee River, anything that's not a natural lake to where they can draw some stuff down, you need to be paying attention to that, and especially if you're fishing shallow. If you're fishing out in the middle, they don't really care. It
kind of helps, I'm going to be honest with you. But yeah, they love to drop the bottom out of that thing on Friday night. I'm talking about it's like their favorite thing to do.
A lot of times, we got any dam operators out there listening? We're talking to you.
I mean, come on, man. Like, start dropping it on Thursday night. So when I'm there fishing on Friday, I don't even get sucked into that stuff up there. But, Eufaula is a big, brush pile lake now with the live scope and all that. I think the BPT, Canal, the Red Crest kind of all took that to light. And that's obviously a great way to catch them. And that's probably how a lot of tournaments get won. But you don't have to fish that way to competitively, catch some bass and have some good finishes. You can go up the river, flip, throw a spinnerbait, chatterbait. There's a lot of hyacinth mats up there. I love fishing up that river. It's kind of temperamental in March. You kind of got to hit it. You can hit it right and win tournaments up there, but it's a special. Everything's got to line up where down the lake is a lot more conducive to changing conditions and stuff like that. And the same exact way on Logan Martin, except you don't have the hyacinth situation and all that.
A lot of time. All right. Well, we've kind of picked out our starting area. We've talked about the first thing we're going to do is look for bait and try to catch those dots around bait. Kind of give me a backup pattern. Let's say all we catch are those 3-pound catfish on bait. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about a backup pattern and stuff that you're looking for back on the Coosa.
Yeah, I'm gonna go be gravitating towards the bank or moving shallower, I should say. I wouldn't say go be completely on the bank. A jerkbait is a great wintertime pre-spawn bait. It's a really good bait on Logan Martin. It's a good bait on Eufaula. But just specifically talking about Logan, some of those points of just rocky, juice looking points. Just obvious stuff. That's what spotted bass get on. And don't get me wrong, there's largemouth in Logan. Like most of the tournaments get one with mixed bags, but you can as easily catch a big largemouth as you can a spot in the same exact place. The only reason I keep mentioning spotted bass is they're just easier to get to bite when it's cold or the conditions aren't great. So it just gives you kind of some confidence. And just because I've been in situations where I'm practicing, I can't get a bite, and you start spinning out, your wheels start turning. Where if you can just catch a few fish, it keeps you kind of mentally, focused on putting the pieces together. So that's kind of why I just keep, going back to that, to where if you happen to start figuring out how to get bites, if they're spotted bass, you're going to run into some largemouth also. But yeah, I'm definitely going to start moving shallower, throwing a jerk bait. If you're able to throw an Alabama rig, that's a great bait on both places. My fault. Once you go through that, like you're going to be looking for, like if you're on your side scan or live scope, there's some underwater brush, like sunken brush, man-made stuff on both places. Obviously, like I mentioned about Eufaula, Logan Martin has some too. You could have some pre-spawn fish staging in that. Moving from there, depending on how that goes, and just trying to, like I said, just trying to start getting a few bites. If that isn't successful, work your way on up. Get around. Both places have a lot of docks, a lot of grass. Well, there won't be any grass on Logan because the water's down. Mainly more rock, clay, red clay banks, mud banks, stuff like that on Logan. On that lower end now, this is not speaking,
of course, not up in the river.
Yeah, and there's a few bluff places that are, channel swing banks. You can start checking some of that too. And by this point in time, you're going to have a clue of something. You will have caught something somewhere. Some indication, like, I didn't even see anything in this middle section. Like, wasn't no bait, no anything. Got up a little bit shallow, some stuff flicking around, blah, blah, blah. But that's kind of how the progression would go. If you only got, let's just say you only got 1 day of practice for a local guy like the ABT. Let's just say you caught 2 keepers out scoping and you caught 3 fish on the bank. Like, they were about the same size. This is just me talking in my tournament, going into the tournament day. Look at the weather. If it's going to be especially in the March, you want to look at more of the night temps than the day temperatures. The nights is really when stuff starts to, and not a lot of people understand that. I'm giving up a little bit of juice, so you're welcome.
That's what we do. You can take it to the bank here.
The night conditions, what you need to know, if it's a warmer day, just a certain situation, if it's a warmer day, you have an overcast night, the water temperature is going to stay warmer because that clear night's not going to allow that cold air to get down to the water. If you have a cold night, normally it's a clear night, it's going to, drop those water temperatures a little bit. So I'm looking at that. If we've got conditions, it's going to be a warmer night, overcast, I'm definitely probably going to focus on the shallow stuff just because I feel like they may be coming to me. If it's vice versa, if you're going to have a cold night, you got bluebird skies coming the next day, blah, 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 definitely going to be more focused. Like, I would probably start out deeper for the morning, and if the sun was going to be out and heated up some stuff, I would try and find some protected water up shallow just to be able to sample both if I was wondering or, going into a 1 day.
And I feel like most weekend anglers don't realize how fast fish move. Like, if it's been a warming, kind of on a little bit of a warming trend, those temperatures are up in the 60s during the day, it's been sunny, and you blister them for 2 days on the bank, skipping docks or throwing a swim jig or whatever you're doing. And then, like it always happens, those cold fronts are kind of like dam operators. They really mess with you on Fridays right before Derby, always. And then they come in, like, some of those fish may hunker down out shallow, but guys, they've got fins and they swim. They got fins. They swim around.
I'm about to say, what fish do? They swim.
They swim. And you go spend an hour up there that morning, or 2 hours or 3 hours, maybe you get 1 straggler, but you're not getting bit on every other dock. Like, go out, go see if those fish are pulled out there chasing bait, or if they're on those first brush piles right outside of the places that you were catching them. Like, they will make those moves throughout the day with changing conditions.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's what, like, our guys, I think that's what makes the good, cause I'm not knocking weekend guys because they kick my teeth in all the time when I come home. But looking at it from our standpoint, that's what makes, because all of us here are good. All 100, however many guys, like, we're here for a reason. The great ones separate themselves by being able to understand that and just forget everything that they learned in the last 2 days, because they know what they think like a fish. They know majority of what the fish are doing. And like you said, there will be a few stragglers up there. Not saying you're wrong, but why, if let's just say you got the cold front situation and it's a shallow water deal, it probably ain't going to be good for the first 4 hours. Like, if it's below freezing. So you're probably not going to get a bite to begin with. And not to say go sample it, but go try, like you said, go off. I mean, with us being able to use live scope, now, if I didn't have it, that'd be different. Like, if I just had to go grind, I can grind with the best of them. I'll be happy to do that. But if I've got that deal, go in those areas and look where places they could just slide off to. And again, it could be like that structural stuff I was talking about. be a brush pile, be a log, be a random stump, be a washing machine. A lot of washing machines on the Coosa River, by the way. I don't know where they come from. But call it, tires, washing machines,
Dead
lawn
bodies.
chairs. The lawn chairs could be from domestic disputes. Just going to throw that out there. They get out there on them docks and shit,
A lot of time.
give them too many, beverages get to going, and you never know. Anyways, but that's what I see a lot of chairs off the end of docks, and I don't really know how. You kind of have an idea. You're like, now, I'd like to have seen that. But yeah, just look where they could have slid off to, and like you said, they swim, but they ain't gonna swim far. Like, especially if there's bait in the area, like that, they just want to slide off. And that can be said for the exact same situation where we're talking about the water falling out on a shallow bite. They're not going to swim 2 miles away. They were there for a reason. They're just going to slide off a little bit, get on something until they feel like they're comfortable and they're safe. They don't like. Would you like to stay in your house if the roof was getting lower and lower to you every 30 minutes? I'm probably going to ease out of there and I'm going to look, make sure that ceiling stopped for a little while before I head back up there. Like, it just kind of. On a shallow fishery that fish are used to living shallow. Now, there's different situations, but in Alabama, like we're speaking of now, that's kind of where I would go. And you hit the nail on the head right there about the people don't understand that the fish move. They move a lot, but they may not move far.
Yeah,
I guess that's a good way to wrap it up.
They move quicker than you realize, but they usually, like, if you caught a bunch of them in this one creek arm, those fish are still there. They're not swimming from that creek arm 15 miles up the river.
Yeah. Spend enough time in there. And you may be looking at 12 o'clock and you have a bite. But, you probably wasn't going to have a bite up there doing what you're doing either. So, what'd you really lose?
Yeah.
But, yeah, I had something.
A lot of time. That's what, to my mind, separates, though, your elite anglers from a lot of other guys, is just how quick they realize that. Like, instead of it taking 3 hours when they're up throwing a swim jig and them not getting a bite, they figured it out in 30 minutes that they fished their 3 best spots. There ain't been a fish there, and then they roll back out deep, and it takes them 2 hours to find them, but then they find them and they catch them, and you're coming in with 2 fish for 7 pounds, and they've got 18 and you started on the same stuff.
Yeah. And a lot of times you may not dude, there's some of our guys that just survive the bad days. Like, that's what makes the great dudes so great, again, is on their worst days, they were still able to survive and be okay for the next day. Dude, I give the guy, there's 2 guys, and they're both from Alabama, that I feel like are some of the best in the world at doing that. One of them's Kyle Welcher. He's a 2-time AOY, and another one was a rookie last year, and it's Wesley Gore. And I don't think it is any, the word I'm like, it's not a weird situation that they're both from Alabama. Like, I think that's where you got to be so adaptive so fast. And there's, again, that goes back to that, all the diverse fisheries and being able to be good at everything. Also, those 2 guys are 2 of the best dudes I've ever seen to be able to just drop everything and be like, they're going to be here. And they figure out a way to make it work.
Yeah. No, for sure. So in the month of March, I don't care if you're on Logan Martin, Neeley Henry, a lot of times, Lake, the Alabama River, Lake Eufaula, any of that. If I blindfold you and I tell you, all right, it's March the 15th, a lot of times I'm going to blindfold you and drop you on one of these lakes that I just mentioned that are, typical of all Alabama lakes. I need 5 rods and reels setups that baits, everything that you're going to have no matter where you go in the month of March. A lot of time.
All right. Number 1, and not in a, like, this is the best one, this is the worst one.
No particular order.
Yeah. Like I'm not going to go like, this is the one you got to throw. If you don't throw, you ain't going to catch shit. And you may not catch shit on any of them. I don't know. But that's what I'm all throw. But yeah, First setup's going to be a bladed jig. Like, it's just hard to beat any time of the year, but it really shines in that pre-spawn or even wintertime pre-spawn, the time of year we're talking about. A lot of color's going to be...
What's your chatterbait setup?
A lot of time. Around the Coosa or in Alabama most of the time, because you're going to be fishing more structure stuff, like you're gonna be throwing at specific targets, I like a 7.2. In my art signature line, I've got a 7.2. It's a medium. It's a regular action. And basically the regular action is just a mod action. So it's got the action of a glass rod, but the sensitivity of graphite. And that shorter rod, it just allows me to skip and put it places I want to. So I'll have that rod. Line, I mean, you can normally get away with pretty big line anywhere in Alabama, especially on the Coosa. I'll be throwing 20. I throw 20-pound FC sniper, the Sunline. Art, normally I always throw a blade jig on a 7-to-1 gravity reel. That wintertime, I'll drop it down to a 6.4 just because I have a tendency of going too fast. Now, if it's warm and they're really aggressive, like, and I can cover some water, I'll go back to the 7. But that time of year, I'll probably throw the 6. And it's hard to beat a half ounce on whatever bladed jig you like to throw. I throw a jackhammer. I think the majority of people do. Obviously not. I pay for them just like you do, and the majority of everybody else. It's a confidence thing with me. The original chatterbaits were really good on the Coosa, but you can't find them. Like, they don't make them anymore, or they do, but it's not the same product, which is like that in a lot of stuff. But a half ounce and color is just going to depend. It's all going to be on watercolor, or conditions during the day. But you'll have the black and blues, your whites, and then a red type color, just because of the time of year.
Okay.
And then trailers. Yeah, trailers, your personal preference. There's so many different things you can do. Number 2 is going to be a square bill crankbait. And I like a square bill. I'll throw a square bill, when it's 45-degree water. They will bite a flat side, don't get me wrong. But you can get away with square bill too. And I feel like I can come through a lot different type cover with a square bill. Arc makes one. It's a Z series of ours that I like the best. It's got really good hooks out of the package. I just call it, it's a silent. I like the ones that doesn't have a rattle in it. Even if the water's muddy, like that time of year, I don't want a lot going on. And again, color's going to be, depending on, conditions, all that good stuff. Setup's going to be basically the exact same as the vibrating jig. Besides the line size, I'll throw probably 12 to 14 sniper on that deal. Same reel, same rod, same everything on that. Third is going to be, you got to have a spinnerbait, man. You're on the Coosa River with big old Coosa spots.
In the springtime.
And it's springtime. Like, there's a random, dock post out there by itself, and you roll a big Colorado blade by it, and a 6-pounder comes out and eats it. Like, you can't beat that. That's bass fishing. So I'm going to have it just for that situation, like, or in a random lay down on a bluff bank. Like, it's just good to have. It's a big bite getter. Especially, like I said, with a single Colorado blade. I've thrown the little kicker blade deal on the Coosa some with the Oklahoma, the red, orange blade. You catch a few on it, but it's not like the deal. So I don't really think that, like, you have to have that. But if you like that, then by all means use it. But just some kind of spinnerbait.
So let's talk about spinnerbaits for a minute, because I feel like there for a long time, it was hard to find one that was really, really good. So I don't think you're sponsored by a spinnerbait company.
I don't have a wirebait company.
What spinnerbait you throw?
Man. There's a bunch of different ones. Like you said, there's a bunch. And, man, to be honest, like, does it not seem, and I'm not trying to call any companies out, like, I'm not knocking anybody's product, but it does not seem like they kind of got, like, started getting cheap.
Very.
Like, the blades weren't very good. Like, Hildebrandt blade is the deal. Like, there's not a better one made. They're all, and see, when you talk about blades, like, this isn't a spinnerbait podcast, but when you get into those real cheap blades that you can buy in bulk, they're all made differently. They're not, every one of them's not, the cup's not the same. They don't spin the same. Well, like, and we make, homemade, I'm getting into, I normally throw a homemade one that we make.
Gotcha.
And you just get where you can't use those cheaper blades. You got to have Hildebrandts because they all work the exact same. They give off the same vibration. And that's not being too detailed on, like, being too nitpicky. Like, it's just what works. But again, there's a few companies, like, unfortunately, this one got bought out of, it's not in business anymore, but Stanley, like, the Stanley wedge is, like, I love it, but you can't get them no more. They were just recently, what would be the word, acquired by GSM. who's I assume I know nothing about the company, but it seems like they're trying to buy up the whole industry. But from what I got told is that they're no longer, like, the whole factory is, there's no spinnerbaits being made by Stanley anymore, which is a shame because Stanley's been around for, years and years. But I mean, if they saw it as a losing deal, well, that's a whole different deal. But loved the Stanley spinnerbait. They were built really well. Had really good, that wedge blade was really good. Had really good skirt components, stuff like that. Christie's is a good spinnerbait. I'm not gonna knock it. I caught some fish on
is
it.
a good one.
Yeah. It's that, hey, Hildebrand blades. Like, Christie knows spinnerbaits. Like, it's not going to be a bad spinnerbait by any means. So I like it. But like I said,
have you thrown the Mega Bass one?
I have.
Dude, it's about like everything, like, not sponsored by them. It's about like everything else Mega Bass makes, and it's pretty doggone good.
Yeah.
Accent, I feel like Accent makes a pretty good one.
Yeah, there's actually a bunch of guys, Coosa related that like the Accent for sure.
And Spro just come out with one.
I don't know which one. I don't know which Accent, but yeah, Spro has one. There could possibly be one in the works from a new company that might be pretty good. Yeah.
We dribbling out some nuggets there.
It could be good. I don't know. Like, I don't know.
We're still in prototyping.
I spent a lot of time prototyping. I mean, I spent probably 3.5 years on my rods. But I mean, that's when you work with certain companies that don't mass produce and want to get stuff out so fast that it's junk. That's what you got to do. You got to put in the time for when it does come out, like it makes an impression and it's really good stuff.
Yeah. All right.
But yeah, that's where I'm at on spinnerbaits.
We got a chatterbait. We got a spinnerbait. We got a square bill.
Yes, sir.
What are our other two?
The next one's going to be a flipping jig. And what better one to have than, our good buddy Randall, makes I mean, I may be a little biased, but I really think it's the best flipping jig ever made. Like, it's got everything. You take everything this one thing's good in this jig, this one thing's good in that one. You take all that and put it into one. From hook, from weed guard diameter, from weed guard angle, to skirt strands, to how the skirt's hand tied on there, to the detail and the paint on the head. Like, it's just the best one that I've ever used. And I've flipped a jig since I could walk. I mean, that's what you do when you come out of the womb and you live on the Coosa River. You learn how to flip a jig. So I've used a bunch of jigs. That's a really good one. Half ounce. Sometimes you can go up to a 5/8. Kind of depends on the situation you're in. At that time of year, you can flip a 3/8 around too. Especially on some shallow cover and stuff. Tailors, I'm strictly a chunk guy. Used to use when I was real young, they still had the pork chunks, like little bitty, like when I was flipping with a Zebco on a flipping stick. But now, the Zoom Big Salty is hard to beat. I'll alternate between the Zoom Big Salty chunk and the Zoom Super chunk. Just kind of depending on what I want the jig to do, because they do different things with both chunks. They have a different action when they fall. But that's going to be the main deal on that. Flipping rod's going to be the FAFO in my series, the flip around and find out.
Flip around and find out.
Flip. For everybody, flip. No you in there. Flip.
Got you. No, I got you.
7-to-1 gear ratio, gravity reel. And, shooter, I posted it the other day on my socials. If somebody held a gun to my head, not trying to be violent, but said I only get one flipping line, it's going to be shooter 22-pound Sonar line. It's a weird deal because they're like, well, they got 20 and 25, but it's its own size, like, obviously, but it's not near as big and hard to handle as 25, but it's a lot bigger than 20. So like there's just a good all around coming in and out of stuff or open water flipping, to where I feel like the 20 can get you in a little bit of trouble if you're in some real thick stuff.
Gotcha.
So you got the maneuverability of 20 with the strength of 25, and they kind of all combined right there with the 22. So that's a really good line, flipping around, especially on the Coosa or anywhere shallow in the country. Just a good line to check out for sure. And again,
you done talked about it. Your last one's got to be a minnow.
Oh, it will be. Yeah, 100%. I was getting there. It's going to be a jig head minnow. If I can have an alternate, it's going to be a jerkbait. Like because you can use it with it or without it on live scope wise. So, number 5 would definitely be a minnow. I've had a lot of people tell me my little spinning rod's pretty good for a minnow, and I like it. It's a 7-foot medium light. I named the rod Desperation, because if I got that thing in my hand, it's probably desperation mode. So that's what that is. Got an Arc Gravity G5, or maybe a GS5 is the name of it. Spinning reel on there. Line wise is going to be. I like the Overwatch. Someone's got Overwatch, or one brand they have one model they have of the spinning braid is Overwatch. Really like it. Probably 10 to 16 pounds on the Coosa or Eufaula, dirtier water. You can get away with that bigger line, and then 12-pound sniper with my little minnow. And you jig head size, that's a whole different story for a different time. Like, it's just everybody you can beat that horse to death. And then minnow style, minnow color, like size. Just gonna have it on there. I'll have a lot of different ones in the boat, and just kind of go through and see which ones are working better that day. And then the jerkbait. And I really like. Have you thrown Arch jerkbait?
Nobody's really talking about them right now, but
dude, it's sneaky
pretty
good,
legit.
Yes, it shocked me when I got them. I was like, man, a jerkbait's a jerkbait, dude. It shows up way better on live scope. Like, you have a way better return. It has a lot different action. I feel like it's kind of a mixture. And I'm not a jerkbait expert by any means, but just looking at it in the action from a pointer, a Lucky Craft pointer, and a Mega Bass. Like, if you combine those two, it kind of does a little bit of both things, which is, I feel like it's a little bit different than on the market. And the main thing you can do with ours is that you can't do with others is you can change the hooks and the action doesn't change at all. And
not going
again,
to start sinking or floating or anything like that.
Correct. Yeah. And obviously, if you put freaking, X gammas, short shank, some big number 4s on there, it's going to start sinking a little bit. But if you keep it kind of the same size, where if you take another brand's jerkbait, a highly known one, and change the hooks on it, it's going to definitely impede the action. So that's
and the highly known one, other brand he's talking about, is a Mega Bass 110+1.
I mean,
let's just get it out there.
Wrong. Yeah,
dude, it's the best jerkbait there ever has been.
Yeah, it's a good one. Like, there's nothing wrong with a Mega Bass jerkbait. It's world known. It's caught millions of bass, but the price point that ours is at, you can almost buy 2 of ours for one of those, and I promise you can. I will take it to the grave. They catch bass, and there's other pros that can attest to that too. That may not even be sponsored by us that swear by them. So, just a little deal there that I don't think has gotten the recognition yet, but it's very well could come to light this year on Bass Live. I wouldn't say by me, but there's a very good chance that there may be some guys just taking it out, fishing them out, throwing them in the water real quick, so you can't see what it is.
The Arc 110 jerkbait. What's the name of it?
I think it's the official name is JSP. Something like that. I mean, it's the only jerkbait we have on the market right now. Like, it's the Arc. We don't have a prototypes are in the work for the different stuff like that, but and it'll dive, like a normal 4 to 7, but his colors are. It's just a good bait, dude. Like, it doesn't break your freaking bank when you buy it, and it doesn't, like, you hang it up in a brush pile. Like, yeah, you lose a little bit of money, but it's not like breaking off a $27 bait.
Right. All right. So when I come down there, and you're fishing a ABT 100, or you're fishing against some guys that are from off from here, is what we call them here, them fellers from off from here. Where do they screw up? Yeah. Where do they screw up in Alabama? Like, if you're driving past them and you're like, that dude is not going to catch a bass over there.
That's what people say about me. Like, when I put my boat in, they're like, God, I feel sorry for that guy today. Yeah, almighty. But, so I think, and I'm not saying this because this is their fault, from my experience, me going other places. Because there's a funny thing around the state where the Tennessee River guys don't come to the Coosa, and the Coosa guys don't go to the Tennessee River. Because and there is a few crossovers that, I mean, they're just really good fishermen, and they catch them in both places. But for the average guy, a Tennessee River guy looks for, and then I'm not talking about spotted bass, they look for spots to fish. Like they fish right here, or they have 3 spots to go fish. And if you're catching some on those spots, you don't leave them, because there's a reason they're there, because those fish like to group up. I have been guilty of in my younger years, because I'm so old, I would go to Gunnersville and try and fish it like the Coosa. So I would be looking for a pattern. I would be looking for, maybe they're on, halfway back in creeks. Well, no, they ain't nothing there, because he's sitting over there in a hole in the grass with 10 of his buddies, or on a hard spot. Like, you know what I'm saying?
It's a spot. So Tennessee River to use more of a spot deal, and then the rest of the state is more of a pattern. Eufaula, all those places are patterns. If
Eufaula can be a spot place as well, but you still have the opportunity to have the pattern deal. I mean, like the Tennessee River is 100% a location situation. If you ain't throwing in the right 20-yard area, or you might be sitting right beside somebody and not have the right cast, and they catch 32 and you catch 1. Like, I've seen it happen. I mean, like the bridge deals, like stuff like that. So I think we're like me, younger Coosa guy going up there, I'm trying to find that, and vice versa. The guys up there are trying to come down and find that on the Coosa. It's not there.
So they're not moving around enough.
You're right. They're not used to. I don't want to, because you can still catch, like, you'll find some spotted bass like on a hump, but you may catch 3 or 4. Like catching 4 off a place is like, dude, they were loaded on that one. Like, there was a bunch of them there. A lot of time. They're not used to running around and picking them off, like catch one here, catch one there, catch one here. Not saying you can't go back to that certain stretch and catch another one, but you're not just going to sit there all day. And there is certain times of the year where we call them worm draggers. They'll sit on the same point all day and catch 6 bass, and they'll have 18 pounds. Or they just happen to have one swim up there and he bites it. But, historically speaking, there's a lot of moving around. Like, you have to hit different things. And you may end up weighing 5-year bass doing 5 totally different things throughout the day. A lot of time. So I think that's the biggest thing that I think people could take away from this is don't be afraid to catch one and go just randomly somewhere else. If you got a bite over there, probably go try it too.
So keep moving. I know it varies wildly depending on conditions and that kind of thing. But as a whole, what does it take to win a one-day event in the state of Alabama in March? And what does it take to get paid most of the time? Give me a 2-pound range.
A lot of times. It will obviously vary by lake. Of course. I mean, because some of them are really good, some of them are still good. But let's just go with the 2 where let's go with Eufaula and Logan. Logan is gonna be majority of the times 17 to 20. Like, I know it's a 3-pound gap.
That's legit though. Upper teens, low 20s.
There will be very odd times where somebody might catch 22 or 23 because they caught a 7-pound. And it can happen on Logan. Like, you can catch 8, 7, and 8. It's like you were talking about before with Percy Priest. Like, there's not a bunch of them, but if they were ever going to show up, it's going to be that time of year. So you can have that. A lot of times from a getting a check, like, let's just say the ABT is, let's just say 200 boats. I think they pay the top 40, barring any like horrible adverse conditions, like in the single digits or whatever. 11 to 13.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. But they will be a ton of 11s. Like, it'll be like 11. If it was 11, it'll be like 11, 12, 11, 14s, 11, 15s, 12, 1s, stuff like that. So a set number would probably be 12 pounds. If you've got really good conditions, like it's been warm, water's dirty, water's running, a lot of current, like they're going to bite everywhere on the lake, it'll take up to 14 sometimes. And that's a single day deal. The Coosa is real bad about not being able to hold up for multiple days, for sure, just because it's so small and stuff gets beat up. But looking at Eufaula, I haven't fished down there since the evolution of live scope. The last time I fished there was in June on the Elites in 2020. Before that, it would take 22 to 23 was really good, you know, in a March tournament like bank fishing or people fishing brush, like traditionally fishing brush. But now, like, and I don't know what cycle the lake's in. That lake cycles a lot. Like, it can be up for a couple of years and then be down. Like, I think there was a few years it was taking over 30, like big bags. If you had 25 or 20, you threw them back. But I think it's kind of downward right this second. But
so it's the mid-20s there to win, and probably 15 to get paid, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, 14 to 15. And again, that's depending on water. Like, if it's really bad, it could be 12 to 13. If it's really good, it could take 14, 15.
Okay. A lot of time. All right. As we've already touched on this just a second, but as far as getting around, like, that's always something that I try to ask people, you know, hey, how bad is this lake to run? What else is there out there to hit? You being in a boat crash on the deepest lake in all of the nation.
Unbelievable. And one of the deepest parts of that said lake, to be honest.
Was 200 feet deep where you crashed. How's the Coosa, and how are these Alabama lakes to get around? Does a man definitely need to stay in the buoys all the time? Can you kind of run back channels? Obviously run your map, but how is it running around?
Yeah, so the majority of everywhere on Alabama is okay. Again, most everybody that's out there that's going to be running around like that is going to have a map. So, I mean, obviously be aware of where your channels are. A lot of time, the Hummingbird Lake Master lays it out perfect. Like, all the lakes are very well mapped. The one that can be, as far as Coosa River goes, that is the scariest by far is Weiss Lake, which is the very headwaters of the Coosa River. It's above Neeley. It's just a real shallow, flat lake, and there's a lot of stumps that weren't, you know, that just basically got flooded. So that's one that you really need to be aware of staying in they have a lot of channel markers, like actually marked. Definitely need to stay in those. Don't cut any corners on Weiss Lake. Like, don't cut across points. If it says it's 3 or 4 foot, don't even, because a lot of times, me and you fish there. It's a little sketchy, especially in the wintertime. That time of year, the water's drawn down, and when they used to draw it down like 6 foot, you could see the stuff that is covered up in 3 foot of water, because now it only drops 3 foot. You could see everything that's now barely under the water, and it kind of, like, you know, we're just not to go. So with somebody not being from there, just please stay in the river channel or the creek channel. Not a lot of standing timber that you can hit, stuff like that. There's a little bit, but it's way under the water. Eufaula's it's pretty much okay too. There's channel markers on it too. That run the river channel. There's a couple back places you can run, but if you're not from there, just stay where it shows the channels and you're perfectly fine. Again, just one of those places you don't really want to venture out of, trying to run across real, long flats that are 3 foot deep, because you may have a stump that's 2 foot tall and you don't want to knock your lower unit off.
A lot of times that is not good. But if you do, make sure you got a leash.
I was about to say, one thing about having that leash, and it's actually the reason I put it on, is the places that we run, like, normally we're not familiar with them, and we can't, by rules, we can't get any help. Like, whether it's, you can't get fishing locations, but I can't call you about somewhere and be like, hey, dude, is this place, like, can I run through here? Like, we can't get anything. So with that being said, like, we'll show up places I've never been before. I'm like, dude, I don't know if, like, yeah, it says it's 10 foot deep, but there might be some timber out here that's a foot under the water. Like, so just having that little bit of, peace of mind, obviously I never wanted to have to, use the leash, but it gives you, and your family too. Like, I preach, man, like, you got, like, if you're a wife or a girlfriend or something, like, it's a couple $100. Like, you want your husband to come home, the father of your kids and stuff like that. Like, it's just, it takes 5 minutes to put on. Like,
yeah, not complicated.
No.
Yeah, you were talking about that. Like, there's timber in places that you don't realize. A couple of years ago, I was in Eufaula, and I was in 14 feet of water running, and Navionics map a lot of times will say flooded timber in a bunch of random places that there's absolutely no timber. And like, I'm going slow. I'm doing 25 or 30, just barely on pad. And I start seeing stuff start sticking up off the bottom on Eufaula. And I'm like, that looks like timber. And I set it down, and it was solid timber in under me with stuff coming up to the surface. I bet I hadn't idled 50 feet. And I was like, yeah. Like, if I had to shut it down, it would have been bad.
I think there is some standing timber below the, like south of the bridges on the Georgia side. Out there in like you were saying, like 10 to 12, like in some random places. So like I said, but again, the river channel is over on the Alabama side. That's what I'm saying. Like, do you just need to like stay in there until you get familiar with your surroundings and you find some places you can run, like you come in and out of some places, like obviously you're good to go there. There is certain places that you really wouldn't think. And I would say the other one, it just used saying that popped into my head, Late, which is below Logan Martin, has a lot of standing timber. Gotta be real careful on that one too. But again, river channel's perfectly fine. Like, and where there's some places that are more like channel wise. So just pay attention to where you go and like, don't try and be a hero cutting across place, especially like the worst. Most of the time it is like on blast offs. Like everybody's wanting to get somewhere faster than everybody else. You start cutting corners and it's just, I don't know. I've done it, but I won't do it again. I can assure you.
Yeah. Yeah. I've run some places I ain't proud of, but
yeah. I always thought I was invincible. Like I was that guy that just run any, like I was like, you can't see it. You can't hit it. Let me tell you, that is false. Because if you can't see it, you can still hit it. I promise you.
And then you got the fat face for 6 months.
Yes. Got some busted ribs, a fat face, a concussion. Like, what sucks is it was such a fun week of fishing, and I can't remember it. Like, I can't. Like, very few details. Like, some of it's, like, really vivid. Like, I can remember wrecking, like, big time. Like, as I went up, like, all that. But, like, the fishing-wise,
I
don't remember going back out there.
I think my favorite part was it was so muscle memory for you to stand up and flip your life jacket off. Like, that's what you've done 1,000 times.
Never knew I did it, dude.
Yeah, you just like stood up, didn't know where you were, and flipped your
that thing off. Like, hey, my head's busted open. I might fall in and drown. Let me take his life jacket off. Yeah, like, I do the instant. Like, now I can remember that when I stood up and like in the camera when my head goes up there, the last segmented part of my finger went into that cut, and I was like, mother. I got pissed off, dude. Like, it wasn't even a pain thing. Like, you can see, I've had buddies like looking at, like, tell me about the clip. Like, when I'm rolling in the floor, I start kicking my feet. And it wasn't like I'm hurting kicking. They were like, you were pissed off. I was like, I was so mad because I knew what happened. Like, it was, I don't know. But the keyboard warriors, they're like, hey, take you down life jacket. What a genius. I'm like, look, dude, like, I've taken that life jacket off more times than I've taken a seatbelt off in a car. Like,
yeah, you do it 50 times a day, and you that was at the end of the season. You'd done it every day for 6 months.
It just, well, and another thing, I think mentally I was thinking, hey, I can't move around. I can't move around with my kill switch attached. Like, it never. Obviously, I just got freaking smacked. Like, it didn't register to me that, hey, that I'm not connected to anything.
Yeah,
but it was a hell of a ride. I'm not gonna lie. But again, like I said, I don't remember like. I don't remember catching the last fish. Like, I know kind of where I caught it because obviously I went there, but like, I don't remember the bite, like catching it or nothing. Like, that sucks. But
I mean, dude, it gives you. I'd have been laying in the hospital bed like a little bitch. Ain't even gonna lie. But Wes is like, just let me get back out there. Just let me get back out there.
And it's like it. I think Raleigh had a video posted of them, me asking them when I was in the ambulance. I was like, how long is this going to take? Like, and I said it in a smart ass way, and I feel bad, but like, I wasn't trying to be mean to them. I was like, I need to like get out of here. Like, I've got to go. I've only got 4. I got to go back out there. I just knew how monumental even a keeper, like, because the weights are so tight there. Like, I mean, a couple ounces is 10 or 11 places, let alone a 2 or 3 pound fish.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, and you rolled up to one spot, caught your keeper.
First cast. First dot I threw it. I remember like how it happened, but I don't remember like, you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, I remember what happened because like, I trolled around for like, it wasn't like I dropped trolling or threw out there and caught one, but like I can remember that, but I don't remember like making the cast, like nothing. God, Monty, that's terrifying. I don't remember weighing it. Like, it was in my scales. Like, when we got to St. Lawrence, I was like, hell, it was a 300. I think. Or like, it was like 215 or something. But what I should have done, the worst thing I did was when I caught that one, I should just went in. Like, the longer I stayed out there, the worse my ribs and my head was hurting so bad. And I just stayed till I had to come in. I'm like, you idiot.
Dude, those ribs, I've got bucked off a horse a couple of times rodeoing and broke some ribs, and there's like, you can't do anything. You blink and it hurts.
Dude, the worst pain for anybody that's had, I know nobody, I mean, we've talked about this a million times, but laying down in a bed. And I researched that a little bit and talked to some doctors down at Andrews Sports in Birmingham. The way gravity works when you lay down, all your ribs actually compress. Your rib cage compresses when you lay flat. So those ribs were moving as you lay down, and where it was cracked and broke, dude, I couldn't. I had to sleep sitting up, like literally sitting straight up with my head down. Like, could not sleep. And like, you wake up, or you try to roll, and you instantly get woke up like somebody stabs you. It was bad deal.
But
I'm here.
You're here. You went to the St. Lawrence next week on a borrowed boat, and
hey, shout out to Texas Boat World too
for the extra boat there.
Yes, absolutely. The owner I can't recall his name off the top of my head. I wouldn't want to pronounce it and disrespect anybody. He just gave me his $110,000 basket. Said, do whatever you need to do with it. And I'm like, I have no affiliation to these people. But I mean, really appreciate him. Like, I would not have made the classic. It wouldn't have happened if it wouldn't been for him.
You fished 2 days and caught what at the St. Lawrence? I mean, just dying every single time you set the hook.
Yeah, the first day I caught 17 something. The second day I caught 20 even. But man, that first day, it was 1 o'clock before I caught a bass on the St. Lawrence River. Not a little one, not a 2-pounder.
No.
And from 1 o'clock, I was doing the first fly from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock. I caught 17 pounds. On back to back to back to back drifts. And I was like, it's meant to be.
Like good Lord went,
yeah, he's like, I'm going to put him through hell for the first 6 hours. I mean, I don't know. It was a bad day. I'm talking about hurting. Another shout out. I don't know if anybody's going to be watching anymore, but Jonathan Kelly's now wife, Tia, she had this yoga, like, workout compression shirt, like a tank top deal. Because I couldn't breathe, like, with my ribs. And they kept telling me, like, you need to put, like, some compression on. I wouldn't have nothing. And she had one of her shirts, and she brought it to me the second morning. And, dude, I felt like a new man. Like, it still hurt, but I could actually, like, move around. Oh, it's game on then.
Tia Kelly, thank you for letting Wes wear your clothes. Did not know you caught 20 pounds in women's clothes. Hell, I may try that.
Hey, ain't nobody ever done that. I promise you. Yes, sir. If it would have made headlines if I'd have been out there in a yoga shirt and yoga pants, but
that would have been that. Might have pulled some Matt Robertson underwear stuff out there. You fished in your lingerie.
I mean, it wouldn't have offended anybody, I assure you, but we'd have had it on.
Oh my God. Well, dude, thank you so much for hopping on here. I feel like we've talked about some juice stuff. Alabama in March. Things are changing, but get out there, start with a minnow, and then go shallow. Like, that's about it.
And like, you don't have to throw the minnow. Like, you can throw a rig if you're able to throw a rig or a jerkbait. Like, it doesn't have to be that. Just starting way out. And then have a starting point and then work your way somewhere. If you want to start shallow, start shallow. I'm not telling you what to do, but you can just be able to cover all bases while you're there and just get a feel for what's going on. Basically, the best way to break it down.
Well, hope you go catch you some Florida bass, throw your little swim jig around.
Yeah, don't freeze to death, but somebody's got to win.
Oh well, somebody's going to win it, dude. Thank you. I've enjoyed it. People want to check you out. Where do they need to go find you?
Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Normally have a lot of good stuff on TikTok, and all of it's just Wes Logan fishing. But really cool stuff on TikTok. My wife's a really good videographer and video editor, along with getting her master's degree in informatics and nursing. So shout out to her and appreciate all you.
Dude, you can't beat Riley Logan.
No, they don't make them like that much.
a lot of times. All right, guys, you have heard it right here. You can take it to the bank. We're out.
Yeah, you can take it to the bank. Hold the line, hey, you know we on the way. All the time, yeah, we